I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some Democrats and the trans issue and some of the crazy things that they say to defend it, like that we're jealous that that the trans people are themselves are the truest form or most happy with themselves, I guess. And then I also wanted to talk about a video the other day, but I didn't have time, where the trans Congress person had said some comments about, how basically you defend trans people because it's misogyny and all sorts of different things are tied together. And my thing is, sir, you don't need to mansplain all of this. And when there's women issues, you don't have to make them about trans women issues because they're not the same. And so on top of that, I also want to talk about Tucker Carlson claiming, talking to the Daily Mail and a reporter who used to work for the Daily Caller, which Tucker co-founded, so about a story when he went to Israel, which he didn't leave the airport, or really. He came there. Mike Huckabee had invited him, and he talked to some folks that he wanted to talk to, though there were Christians who wanted to talk to Tucker and give their experience living in Israel, but he wasn't interested in that, and he was going to just be there for a short time and leave. But in the story in the Daily Mail, they said that he was detained and interrogated, and I've experienced what it's like at El Al, and which is an Israeli airline, and it is intense, but they do to everybody. It's not particularly special. And Tucker Carlson, I don't know how many times he's been to Israel before, but he's very well traveled and just ought to know better. I think anyone who has been through that experience or has heard from someone who's been in that airport probably are aware of how intense they are. And it's been for a long time. I have people in my comments saying that I heard about this from my teacher or professor or somebody this was in the 80s. I'm like, oh, so this has been going on for a long while, huh? And they're just intense. And so I've talked about it before. After I got back from Israel, in my coverage for the trip, on the day one video, I talked about my experience at the airport, at least coming. And going, it was still intense. It didn't seem it was just intense in a different way. So anyway, there was a video that came out with him getting a picture with being kind of friendly, looked like, with security there, but it's only a short snippet, and I don't know if that was when he arrived or after he arrived. So I guess maybe it'll be probably, might stand to reason that it was probably after he arrived, because he would have been checked before he left. So I guess it was probably before he left, was boarding, but it's just a short snippet, so you don't have to take that as a gospel truth. Just take it for what it is. But his experience, even in the Daily Mail, sounds very normal. It just sounds very normal. And we'll talk about some more things. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site, because it does cost a stream on my site. All the good guys can support. I very much appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different books and merchandise that's at the website that also supports. Thank you to those who comment, those of you who watch back later. And I know, like, some of you guys get in the comments, and some of you are on YouTube and some of you are on Facebook, and you guys can't see each other, but I see your comments, so I thank you. I thank you very much. I can't always respond and read all of them, like, when I'm live, because I'm like handling everything myself, and I'm like a producer in the background or something. So sometimes I do look and glance over and squint because I don't have my glasses. But and I haven't for a while. I need to go get some. But sometimes I just kind of don't want to lose my place. So, but I appreciate it, and it does help the algorithm. It does help um draw people. So I thank you guys. Um, Toy Story 5 trailer just dropped. I saw online. I haven't seen it. The trailer. To me, I wonder what they're doing. It looks like they're all back together. Cause I don't know. I feel like they tidied up the story well enough. But that was the case the last time. So I don't know how many midlife crises Woody's gonna have and whatever. But I'll see what they're doing in the trailer. Anyway, before I jump into dumb comments from Democrats, which maybe this comment is from a Democrat, but my cousin did a video responding to someone on TikTok who said, people, I heard someone say that once you are no longer a Christian, the devil doesn't exist anymore. And so she defected from Christianity. And so she's like, and that is so true. I feel free. There's no enemy that's constantly attacking me and ruining my life and blah, blah, blah. Like it's all in like everybody else's imagination, I guess is what she's saying. So my cousin responded to her and was just like, you're on his team. Like, why would the devil need to attack you when you are on his team? And he said, people who played against LeBron and then finally got on his team were like, oh, it's a lot better when he's actually on your team than you playing against LeBron. So you're not on opposite sides. And so I guess the girl, and my cousin, I've mentioned him before. He used to have a bigger account. He used to have over 100,000 followers. And then a scammer ended up hacking his account and had a hold of his account for like a year, and TikTok didn't do anything. The account is gone now that he built up to like 100,000 followers. I don't know if they finally forced them to delete it or what, but now he's trying to work his way up again on TikTok. I know he has a bigger following on Instagram right now. But I had commented, on his video. I was like, you are an elite employee, and that's like a meme thing going on around. And I guess the original girl found it, and so now her like people are coming in his comments and flooding it, saying we're all in a cult. And someone told me like, you only believe in the devil and all this stuff because you want to go to heaven, or told that heaven exists or something like that. And I guess I was told that heaven exists. That's true. That is true. And I'm like, I believe in this stuff because I've seen, blinded eyes open. Deaf ears unstopped, and the lame walk. My brother is walking today by the grace of God. I've seen a lot of signs, wonders, and miracles in my day, just growing up in church and believing in the gifts, the full gifts, I suppose, of healing and miracles and all that stuff. So I've traveled quite a bit, been to a lot of churches, prayed for a lot of people. Not everybody receives or God has that for them, I guess, but I've seen a lot of miracles. There's a song that we sing called Made Away that my brother leads, and he's the pastor of our church. And one of the lyrics is, and I'm standing here only because you made a way. And that always hits because I'm like, that's literally true. We got to like a terrible car accident years ago. So I just praise God for those things that I've seen. But beyond that, the Bible is reliable. You can talk about the reliability of the Bible itself as far as it being a historical narrative, and then examining whether it is credible, the claims in the Gospels about Jesus. Of course, if you don't believe he's a historical person who lived, I I guess I don't know how to exactly take you seriously. Maybe you haven't looked into it, but but it's a pretty well established fact, I guess, as far as things you can know about people who lived back then anyway. So evidence that he died on the cross, and there's good reasoning to believe that his followers actually believe that he rose again. And go on from there and examining those claims. There's good reason to believe that the universe, which is finely tuned, had a mind and a creator behind it all. There's mathematical probabilities for how this all came to be. Like, one of my favorite accounts that I follow was a former atheist, but he's like a real mathematician, and he sometimes just breaks down the probability of all this stuff coming together, and it doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of arguments that you can make about the Bible being true. A really good book, Frank Turk co-wrote it. I can't remember the other name of the author, but I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. It's a pretty good book that breaks down different arguments about the Bible being true. I have it on audiobook, but I know probably will get a physical copy so I can just highlight and make notes and annotations or things like that. So yeah, I don't believe because someone said, "Hey, do you want to go to heaven one day?" And I'm not saying I wasn't told that as a child, but I'm not a child anymore. And I've experienced some incredible, undeniable things just in my life. And I thank God for, I would say, the supernatural and things that I witnessed and experienced and have just been so finally a part of my life. But as I've gotten older, like, my dad always liked the Bible as far as like apologetics and scientific things that are in the Bible and breaking down those sorts of things. He's always been into that stuff. But just getting older and more I don't know, falling more in love with the Bible, watching Bible podcasts and like, ooh, Wes Huff said this, and oh my gosh. And you know, I there's just a lot of reason to believe that the Bible is reliable. And it's not something that I've been forced into. And are you gonna really be how can you really be forced into real Christianity? I talked about this the other day. I don't really accept the you're born into it, because you have to actually buy into it yourself. You have to have belief yourself. You have to trust in God yourself. Um, your parents can't get you into heaven. Your mom or your dad or whoever, your grandma's prayers, they can help soften your heart of stone to make the right decision, but you have to actually buy in yourself. And I'm also like extraordinarily stubborn. Like, oh my gosh. I'm super stubborn. Like, man, my dad, if I was busy or something, my dad wanted us to watch a movie together with the family. I'm just like, I'm doing stuff. Like, and like, no, you're gonna enjoy this movie. I'm just like, why don't I'd rather stay here and write this book. Like, and then they'd be mad and think, and because I wouldn't sit there and enjoy it, and they'd be all ticked off and stuff. I'm like, you're interrupting me. The idea that I'm, would be like, I'm gonna turn 37 years old this year, that I'd be holding on to all this stuff because as a child or whatever I was told that you gotta be good or believe in God if you want to go to heaven. Yeah, it's just deeper than that. So anyway, that just kind of all happened before I came on, so it was on my mind. I have a lot of reason to believe the gospel. Anyway, let's chit chat about the crazy Democrats. And the crazy things that they say. So, this is Representative Pramila Jayapal, and I swear she's only in the news for dumb stuff. I only hear she only goes viral from dumb stuff. She was always saying dumb stuff. I mean, she is dumb and woke, but it's yeah, I don't know. I'd want to be a serious politician. I guess you don't. No one cares when you're a serious politician, I guess.
To trans people everywhere, I also want you to know this. Those people are threatened by your strength, by your joy in being fully who you are. Those who fight against trans people are just jealous of the freedom that they have taken to be fully who they are. And so those people just want to destroy that rather than imagine what it would be like to be who they are. Wise words from our young people. So today, the Trans Bill of Rights makes those freedoms we all deserve as clear as the paper they are written on. And we intend to continue this fight until we win this fight.
Why would you read that, ma'am? It's so dumb. Okay, first of all, people do this all the time. Um, especially women. I'm not saying men don't do it, but I mostly see women do it. But they'll just demean the other side by saying stuff like, "Oh, they must be jealous. They hate us because they ain't us. That's why." Like, so the Olympic gymnast who was having a beef with Riley Gaines after she was coming for Riley attacking a school that allowed a trans woman on the softball team, and they weren't placing in winning the state championship before, but after they got a trans woman on the team, they ended up beating the former champions and all that stuff. And Riley was like, this is terrible. And then Simone just like, start going back and forth with Riley and stuff. So she didn't say like Riley specifically was jealous, but she said a comment in the past about people who would criticize her. And she said, people who pick on you or whatever, or talk about you, they're doing it because they're jealous. Now there can be people who are jealous and that's why they're talking smack about you. That can be the case, but you can't just default to that being the position. Maybe there's things that people genuinely don't like about you. The people would have said to me sometimes like, "Oh, you must be jealous of Kamala Harris." I'm like, "For what? I don't want her job. I don't want her job. I don't want to be vice president. I don't want to be president. I don't want those jobs. I didn't want to be senator. My arm was really twisted when I did run. When back in gosh, what year was that? I don't remember. Wasn't 18. I don't remember. I guess it was before I ran. It was before I was at the Michigan Republican Party. So maybe it was 2014. Maybe it was 2014. I got my name out there. I mean, if I would have won, I would have did the best job I could have. But I lived in an area. This is the primary that I lost by 6. I was running for state rep. I lost the primary by 6 votes. And so then a spot for Congress opened up. And it was only like a month or so, a little more than a month, maybe 2 max before the election. And Christina Conyers had dropped out and they needed a Republican to run in that seat because we just didn't want it open. And so a panel got together. My sister, she worked for the Michigan Republican Party at the time. They're like, they need someone to put their name in. And, and I was just like, okay, I prayed about it. I was like, you know what? If the Lord wants me to do it, I guess they'll pick me because I wasn't the only option. And so the panel picked me. I remember being I was working at Micro Center, and people came. The chair of Michigan of Oakland County GOP came, and they had me sign the papers, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like they picked me. And the person that also beat me in the primary is one of the people who ended up voting for me, and he came with another candidate. So that ended up, being a good thing in the long run, as far as me making some, connections with other people in my district and getting just kind of the more involved anyway in the inner workings of politics. And then eventually I ended up go to work at the Michigan Republican Party for like 2 years. And so that was overall was all right and everything. And I took, time to really try to push in that like month or so. but the reality is I was in an 80-20 district, so I wasn't going to win that seat. But I don't want to do that. People ask me all the time. I'm like, I don't want to run again. I really, that's not really where my heart is at all. It would have to be like the Lord really speaking in an act of obedience to run for office like that. And I know people say that all the time, like, this is what the Lord wanted. It would really have to be what the Lord wanted. Like, your will be done here, God. Because so I'm like, I'm not jealous. I just don't like her. And why invalidate all of my criticisms that I have for her, which are valid, and I have documented evidence of like the reasons why I don't like her. And when I did my 50 reasons not to vote for Kamala Harris video, I did not make it personal. I don't think I had something on there that was like, she slept with Willie Brown, or I don't think I had any reasons like that. I think they're mostly all policies, like she didn't want to fund the border, the persecution of David DeLayden, her stances on abortion, her stance on the Second Amendment, things like that, but it was all substantive stuff. It wasn't petty stuff. It wasn't like, oh, she bombs interviews. It wasn't things like that. They're all substantive stuff. So when people just say, you're just jealous, it's so weird. So people trying to defend trans people and just say, oh, they're just jealous of you, which trans activists will do that kind of stuff all the time, actually. Look, if you talked about Dylan Mulvaney or something, they'll go in your comments and they'll be like, oh, you're just jealous because she looks better than you. Or I've seen people say that to some of my friends and other folks about different trans women. And I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder or whatever, but it's like, you can coming after me. Is it going to change the fact that they're men? That's why would I be jealous of someone pretending to be what I am? They're pretending. That is what's so bizarre. But I know they're doing it to get under people's skin and just trying to take jabs and hurt people. I mean, that's what they're really trying to do. I mean, when people come in my comments and they make notice about my gap, they're doing it because to them it's a stigma, and to them it's something that's negative. And I think a lot of people think of it as a socioeconomic thing, like, oh, well, they must not have had money to get that fixed, and so it's a lifelong, I guess it doesn't have to be a lifelong thing, but whatever, and just assume it's going to be something that is going to upset me. And that just wasn't my reality growing up. It was always something that, was talked about as being like even a beauty kind of symbol and things like, but to me, it's something that I share with people that I love. with people who look like me. And I don't I don't care. I actually like my gap. And when people mention it, I'm like, thank you for noticing. I'm glad that it triggered you. And somebody's like, I'm not triggered. I'm like, okay, why did you mention it? Like, I know the real reason is because you don't have a good argument against the things that I'm saying. So you just attacked me instead, hoping that going after my physical appearance is going to scar me. And a lot of people are afraid to even say stuff online, or have their image kind of be online because of different attacks that people might throw at you. I'm just always so amazed that that's the thing that people attack. I'm a little surprised I don't hear more about my eyebrows, because I don't really get them done. I haven't in a long time, and they grow kind of weird, kind of Spock like or whatever. So I'm like, I'm not talking about that. It's not often that people talk about my weight. It's always like, dang, that gap. And yesterday someone was saying that you could smuggle like a drug boat or something through my front teeth. Someone said that the reality, my distance from reality is further than this gap between my teeth, or something like that. So I got a few comments just yesterday about it. So I don't, it just puzzles me. That's why I mention it. So that's why they go with the low blow stuff, because they don't have any real arguments. The reality of why people talk about the transgender stuff is because their side is the one who made it an issue. I mean, it is weird kind of when you would see one out in the wild just before all this stuff kind of blew up, but they're the ones who want to boycott states if you don't let trans women go in the women's bathroom. And this goes back to like 2012. Obama was the one who wanted to make schools have trans girls in the girls' locker rooms and stuff, or schools were going to lose funding and all kind of different stuff. So they're the ones who made it an issue. And I'm not saying this is the right thing, but in the past, I guess what folks would just do is, if they passed enough, they would just go in the bathroom and hope no one was none the wiser and not bother anyone. Now you have dudes who say that they're women, who have like OnlyFans and are so they're like male porn stars, and they go in the bathroom, they put their leg up on the sink, and they take a selfie as if they slayed a lion or something like that when they get to go in these women's bathrooms. It's so bizarre, it's so weird. And you remember Jordan Peterson, how he already had like his lectures and things like that, and he's a big name in Canada. I had heard about him in some circles. A friend of mine had Brian Berry. He just researches all kinds of different stuff. He's the one I think who first told me about Jordan Peterson. But I didn't notice. I didn't connect the dots until he really blew up, and he blew up because in Canada he didn't want to be coerced into complying with saying people's gender pronouns if he didn't want to do that. And so people thought he was a hateful, bigoted person. You want to compel my speech now? You want to compel my speech? People wanted folks canceled. It's hate speech, blah, blah, blah. The guy who, is it Jack Phillips in Colorado, who wouldn't bake the cake for the gay wedding? He was targeted again after winning the case with the gay marriage one, which I think that they decided the case pretty narrowly. So in Colorado, they came after him again. They came after him again for not doing like a trans cake or something. So it's these people who made it such a humongous issue, like the state of Florida, when they had good reason to do their parental rights and education bill, which was named the Don't Say Gay bill. So they wanted to protect the trans stuff. So they tried to make it all about the gay stuff to give him cover. And it was like a 6-page bill. The folks didn't want to read. I just read it on the darn show. I'm like, this is what it actually says. And when you actually told people in Florida what the bill said, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I support that. But there's billboards and all kinds of different stuff about how terrible Ron DeSantis is. When they're trying to trans your kids in secret. It's funny because you're seeing a shift right now in some of like pediatric medicine when it comes to the trans issue. They're receding. In the UK, they've decided to kind of pause and pump the brakes on that stuff. And in the US, you're starting to see information come out like the science actually wasn't there on these particular issues and so on. But as I'm looking at these headlines and just think about these 180s, I'm also thinking about parents in the United States of America who have lost custody of their children for not affirming their gender identity. Lost custody, not just like conservative parents or something. I'm talking about left-wing women who are like, no, I there's nothing wrong with your body. I'm not signing on to that. There's something wrong with your body. I'm not doing that. And losing custody of her child. Or fathers who have lost custody of their children. I've heard it more with fathers. The crazy left-wing mom. Elon is a little concerned about that happening with his son because Ashley St. Clair's decided to kind of 180 that position. I don't know if it's out of spite or she was always grifting and looking for her next. I don't know. I can understand him being concerned. He really shouldn't just keep having babies with women that he doesn't intend to have close relational bonds with. But I do understand his concern. And now it's like, oh, oopsie, we made some mistakes. and there is one woman who I can just see her face so clearly, crying, telling a story about how she lost custody of her daughter. And the judge even had asked her daughter, like, do you think you'll be happy after this transition and stuff? And she didn't know. But she ended up losing custody of her. She could only see her with supervision when she visited. And she was told not to talk about religion. This was a religious woman. They're like, it'll distress her too much. And one day she had kind of started the transition and stuff, but she was so depressed that she ended up walking in front of a train and ending her own life. We're supposed to be jealous of this madness. And we're supposed to just accept that, they're just picking on us. As if we don't have any memories about how crazy the world has been in the past couple of years. Abigail Shrier doing her book, Irreversible Damage, and how much hatred, vitriol she had to face because she interviewed concerned parents who love their kids, who were just like, who were left on the left, by the way. They just were baffled by the trans stuff. And they're like, I know my kid. I know they're not actually trans. And then these Tumblr, tunnels and these rabbit holes on Reddit, and encouraging people to self-diagnose and like, this is what you are. And they go to college and they're even more radical about it. And then even want to end up cutting off their family because they don't affirm them enough. I read an article from the perspective of a mother who had a trans daughter. And she just talked about the heartbreak of like her child not wanting her to call her the name that she gave her. And her child's voice fading away because of taking the testosterone and making it deeper. And eventually like her wanting to cut her mother off. And the grief like that she just displayed on the page was excruciating. And all these trans activist people just came out of the woodwork to demean and condemn the mother for not just getting on board and accepting a lie. But well, we're just exaggerating. We're just picking on like, oh, there's such a small population. Why are they always picking on? Because you made it such a big deal. You made it such a big deal. My sister got flagged so many times on TikTok for saying a man can't be a woman. And yes, just things that simple got flagged in the comments. I used to get dinged so much for like trans content on TikTok. I haven't lately, but that was just maybe last year, maybe when she got flagged for those comments, if not the year before. The world was crazy. And they were like threatening people. Like, oh, well, remember what you posted online. Because they just expected to eternally be on top. I'm glad the pendulum has swung. I'm glad some people are waking up. Of course, there's still stupid people like this who still want to push this stuff and pretend like everybody's just jealous of their joy. Why would I be jealous of people who are unwell, who even if they have surgeries and all that other stuff, they're still so uncomfortable in their body that they contemplate taking their lives? Why would I be jealous? I have tremendous sympathy for people who feel that uncomfortable in their bodies, and I want them to seek help and be well as possible without trying to make the world their own little padded cell that we all have to be a part of and just lie to them to keep them safe. I want them to be stronger than that. And I believe that they can. But to just throw everything away and just be like, oh, they're just jealous of you and give them that kind of ego, that's insane. That's insane. I also want to talk about, I think, Mr. McBride. Pretty sure that's his name. Who had said some comments the other day as well that were nonsensical to me.
We should be effort, not only out of proximity, but out of intentionality, will include consequences for women of all backgrounds. Because at the end of the day, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and sexism are all rooted in the same prejudice. The belief that one perception at birth should dictate who you are, how you act, what you do, who you love, and how you dress. And toward all women.
No. And what threats are you even talking about? I don't want anyone to infringe upon your life and your liberties. Okay, your free speech. Oh, I don't. What kind of threats are you talking about? If someone's threatening your life, it's a crime. You know, I don't want someone to go hurt you. Like, take that person to jail. Okay, I don't want that. If you're getting threats online, especially credible ones, call the police, call the FBI, do what you got to do, be safe. I don't want people to do that. I don't want people to physically harm you. If threats are, I don't know, just I'm not gonna use your pronouns and you can't come to my bathroom. You know, then you got to just get over it. Threats are bad across the board. But you being a man, I don't need you to mansplain how trans stuff is going to end up impacting women, because we're not the same. You are a man pretending to be a woman, and that's just what you are. And saying like, oh, well, it's just all rooted together because people have this idea that you have to be a certain thing based upon how you're born. Based on certain things about how you're born, some of those things are just going to be true, like eternally true. I saw a video the other day of a trans. I'll post it like on Facebook and stuff. I don't, and I guess YouTube. It was of a trans woman, and he did not look like a woman at all. Big guy was talking about how he gets a period. And so the response to him was like, so you're shedding like your uterine lining, you're and he's like, I get cramps. And he's like, are you sure that's just not like the hormones messing you up? He's like, I have a period. And this isn't the only dude I've heard say that, trans dude, say those kinds of things about having a period. But I think that's one of the weirdest things for trans people to try to claim. I guess I won't speak on behalf of all women. I think I can speak for a good chunk. And we're not always happy to like have one. And it's just like a biological necessity. There's been a few times that I've been happy about my period. Or just, I think just kind of few times where women are like happy to have one. The first time, I guess, because when I had my first period, I'm like, oh, I'm a woman. And I had older sisters and they had it. My mom had it. And so it's just like a sign of you becoming a woman, not like a legal woman or whatever, but you've reached this stage of maturity. You're growing up. It's kind of like a little rush, like, yay, I'm on the right path or something, you know? So there's that. Women could be excited when they have a period, when they're concerned about missing one and they don't want to be pregnant. And they're like, woo, I've never had that experience myself, but you know, that's an exciting moment for women when they have periods. That could be women who want to have children in the future who are concerned about their body, and maybe they haven't had one, and then they have one. They're like, okay, good. I'm still, it's still possible. I haven't reached my cycle, my end of my, you know, life down there. I can still bear these babies. And things are still functioning correctly. You know, that's the moment you might be happy. I don't know of any other kind of circumstances where you might be like, yeah, like I got one. They're not all periods are the same. Well, they all are the same in a regard, but as far as women's pain levels when they cramp, for example, how their flow is. And when you get older, you like, it becomes more stabilized too, but because mine are way different, like now that I'm older compared to like when I was first having them. And you might have your hormones be all out of balance with like, you know, headaches and vomiting, just all kinds of different things could happen. People getting, you're emotional, I like really crying and things like that. I've never been that way. There's times where I've been like uber irritated, but I've never been like I'm on my cycle and I'm crying hysterically or whatever. So there's just so many ways it just is a part of your life. And it can really inconvenience your life, but at the same time, you really can't afford for it to inconvenience your life. Like I could just be driving and all of a sudden it feels like there's a knife that's just coming through my body. and you just gotta keep driving like nothing happened. It's so bizarre to me when trans women are like, I had a period. I have a period. It's not just cramps. And I'm very curious what their with them taking hormones or what other kind of stuff is doing to their body that they think that whatever discomfort they're having is like cramps. Because I've seen so many videos of women who get like the cramp simulator thing, and they put it on a man, and the men are just flipping out about how much pain it's on, and it'll be like out of 4 or something, and the women put it on like, I don't even feel anything. And then they'll dial it up to like a 10 and like, I guess I feel it now. But we're just built different. We are built different. It's just a fact. And we're built different because we're supposed to bear children. I'm not saying all women have to do it. If you don't want to do it, that's your business. Many women want to and can't. And so but if you can't do it, that means that there's something wrong, because it is something that we should be able to do, that we are ordered to do. That is what separates us. And frankly, our biological destinies, what some women do, what some don't, what we decide about, who gets drafted and all sorts of different things. I guess we don't have to have different rules, but a lot of them are with considerations about the family and different roles in the family because of biological reasons. And maybe you want to break forth away from a lot of different things, but it's always going to be the fact that we bear the children, that we carry them, we bear that burden. And our bodies have periods and go through all these different processes because it's preparing us for that, and it's trying to get pregnant. It's preparing for that. It's what we're designed to do. So you can dismiss biology all you want. It doesn't change what it is. It is not wrong to acknowledge that men are bigger, that they're stronger. Not all men are bigger than all women, obviously. We don't have to play semantics game, but they're generally bigger and that they're stronger. There's a reason why we separate sports by sexes, not feelings, by the sexes. I'm not saying women can't go hunt and gather and all that stuff, but men are better at it. Men are better at fighting. Men are better at war. I'm not saying women can't be good at it and be included and play on some drones or whatever. But it's just the reality. We're built psychologically different. Our psychological profiles, as far as the jobs that we want to have. Women care more about people. Men care kind of more about things. I'm not saying that women don't enjoy like tech and other stuff like that, but there was a guy who used to work for Google. I can't remember his name. But the company wanted to know, like, how could they get women more involved and so on. And so they kind of sent that out to everybody to just kind of brainstorm. And so he took it upon himself to actually write out like a thorough memo, just explaining the psychological differences of men and women, and talking about how you can kind of tailor certain projects and aspects and things to fit their kind of different profiles to make it more enticing to women, and just acknowledging the difference between male and female made people so upset. I can't think of his name, but this happened I want to say it was around 2016. They're all kind of crazy stories around 2016. Very interesting, a lot of interesting things around that time. I would say it was maybe around that time. It was a while ago, about the Google memo. And people were talking about, oh, so it's so sexist, it's so this and blah blah blah. And it really wasn't. It really wasn't. But people were so crazy about it. Let me see if I can find it. Under author. James Damore. Yeah, it was 2017, so I was close. August 2017, Google software engineer James Damore was fired after authoring an internal 10-page memo titled Google's Ideological Echo Chamber. The memo argued that gender disparities in tech resulted from biological differences between men and women rather than discrimination, criticizing company diversity efforts. So he was trying to do Google a solid, and they got rid of him. The document caused major controversy for promoting stereotypes. I wonder what's he doing now? That was a wild time. A wild time. Anyway, let's move on before I let you guys go. I wanted to just kind of talk about the Tucker thing again. I've done videos. I post on TikTok. I post on Facebook. So some of you, I'm sure, already maybe know about this. But Tucker Carlson, he went to Israel. He's been doing a tour in like the Middle East and going to different countries and stuff. So he's been talking about Christian persecution and is making the claim that Christianity is like, oh, so nice and stuff in Saudi Arabia where they have apostasy laws. It's just great for you Christians here. And I'm just like, Tucker, do an altar call. go somewhere, do an altar call and lead people to Jesus. See what happens to you, Tucker. I'm not saying they're going to just chop his head off on the middle of the stage because, that'd be a huge diplomatic mess, but it's dangerous when you are loudly living out your faith. Okay. So he's been trying to say Christians in Israel are really persecuted. So Christian groups in Israel, they reached out to Tucker like, why don't you come and have a conversation with us? And Mike Huckabee was like, why don't you come and have a conversation with me? Because he's the ambassador and we can talk about this particular issue. And Tucker decided to fly in. Now he flew in private. And so he flew in. He didn't even like leave the airport. He, I guess, did his interview with Huckabee. And he also talked to a Christian who he imported there, I think, and about Christian persecution or whatever, but didn't meet with any of the Christian groups who wanted to talk to him, and he can talk to whoever he wants to talk to. And that's what he obviously does, but he didn't talk to those groups, but he did talk to Mike Huckabee. I don't know how their interview went. It's dropping on Friday, but when he was like leaving or something in the airport, just did probably routine security stuff. And so Tucker Carlson, they ended up leaking a story or giving a story to the Daily Mail, and the reporter for the Daily Mail used to work for the Daily Caller, which Tucker co-founded, by the way. And they talked about how he was detained and how he was interrogated. And so the explanation that's in the article is that they took their passports and they took a producer in a separate room and asked him questions and demanded to know what he talked to Huckabee about. And that was like, I guess, the interrogation. And Tucker was like, it's so bizarre. Now, Tucker's very well traveled. I don't know how many times he's been to Israel. I would assume he's been to Israel. I don't know if that is the case, but I can tell you that is just a common experience. And so it's funny because the embassy responded, Huckabee responded, Israel, the government responded as far as like whoever like handled airlines and that section, I guess, responded. And we're like, he was treated like everybody else. he was in the VIP room for privacy. And what's funny is people are pushing back at the idea that they had him in a VIP area. I think they just were thinking that they took him in some kind of holding cell and just called it VIP. He literally flew private. Like them checking through their luggage and asking the security questions. That's all happens in a different section than everyone else has to deal with at the airport. So it was VIP. So it's a silly thing to push back on. But I can tell you from experience that it does feel like an interrogation. But there is a video. I mentioned there is a video. It's just a snippet though. So it's about 20 seconds. So take that in mind. That is just short. But Ollie London ended up sharing it. So snapping a picture for the big bad, Israel security. Oh boy. So again, just a few seconds, so you don't know the whole interaction, but even just from the article itself that they gave to the Daily Mail, it's such a silly story to anyone who's been through the security before. And I've talked about my experience. I'll briefly talk about it again. Before I went to Israel and even was at JFK getting ready to go to their airlines and stuff, I like right before that I was at another event that was like for like a pro-Israel group and stuff. And Ali Kozak, he's a comedian, he's Jewish. He did a set and he talked about flying with the airline and how intimidating and stuff it was, and how they basically treat you like they're Mossad agents and you're a terrorist. And it was funny going through the airport because I'm like, oh my gosh, he was correct. He was correct about that and some other things about the experience in Israel with hospitality and other stuff. But we were told like, hey, we need to go as a group, so we'll all meet together here. And they explained how it goes down, what you say when they ask questions, like don't complicate things, and you don't want to end up in the back room. Now, I was with the Christian group, the Christian organization, it's Christians United for Israel, CUFI. They're the ones who invited me. They watch my content. They like my content. They didn't tell anybody what they had to say. They didn't tell anybody what they had to post. They didn't even tell the people that they had to post. They expected people would post stuff about the trip and whatever, but they just wanted to invite some different people and to be just a little more transparent. They saw some videos I did about Candace Owens. They're like, I want this girl to come. But okay. And so they invited me out. And they paid for most everything. And I did have like donors like who watch my content who ended up, giving donations and stuff for me to go and stuff too. So, but anyway, they explained what security and stuff was like. And she talked to them first. So they knew that we were with CUFI, and people know who CUFI is. I was a little embarrassed, I guess, afterwards, because I'm like, what is this group? And I looked it up. I'm like, oh, it's John Hagee's group. Huh? And so when I was in Israel, like after they gave me some Destiny gave me some Kufi merch, like I had something on my arm and a hat. People were just coming up in the airport like, oh great, I love this organization, I love this. So and they do a lot of programs and stuff with Israel, and so people know who the group is. And Destiny's done this many times. And one time she has been detained in the back. So they're grilling, asking questions. And they're, like, oh, why are you coming here? And which, common question or whatever. But they ask you, and they're kind of smiling, but they're like, I don't believe you. It's like the whole kind of vibe they're giving. Like nothing that you say they actually believe is kind of the vibe that's going on. It feels like an interrogation. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, social media. And they're like, why are you coming with this group? And like, cause I've done some pro like Israel content, I guess, covering like the war and things like that. And just like, why would you do that? I was like, because I'm just saying facts about it. And they're like, well, you have a following? How many followers do you have on TikTok? How many followers do you have on this? And I'm like, I think it's 100 and something thousand. And I'm like, I could pull it up. And I was holding my bags and like, do you want to set your bags down? I'm like, I'm okay. Cause you look nervous. You look uncomfortable. You look uncomfortable. Do you want to put it down? I'm just like, okay. And I'm just thinking like, man, they're going to take me in the back room. They're taking me in the back room. They didn't. And I was the one out of the group that they grilled, I guess, the hardest, because I was the first. I think they asked Blake a couple questions because he's done some traveling in some countries that sends them alarm bells, because they do ask you like, where have you gone? Have you ever gone to these different kind of countries and so on? And they check your passport. And so if there's like terror tie countries, you're gonna have some more questions thrown at you. So it feels really intense. It does feel like an interrogation, but that's just how it is. And they're very concerned about their security, and they have good reason to be. So anything that Tucker went through is not out of the ordinary. When I was leaving Israel, they were like, where's this name from? I'm like, Bar? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know the origin of it. Like, it could be a slave name for all I know. Like, I don't know. And so they're just, and then they keep pronouncing it like bear. I'm like, it's Bar. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, is there some kind of notorious terrorist with his last name Bear? And they're just like, what's the numbers like on your passport, like for phone contacts and stuff. And so I'm like going through my phone because I don't know. I know my dad's number off the top of my head. I'm like, I don't know if he's my emergency contact or my sister is my emergency contact. And so I just give him both numbers. And I'm messaging my sister. I'm just like, tell dad that Israel might call you. I don't know. They're asking a lot of questions. They just took my passport and they put a sticker on it. And so I was the longest to go through security. And then when you have to like take your bags to be checked, they're like, nope, you got to go down to this line. And I went like all the way down to this line, and I couldn't just put my stuff through like a bag to like a machine to like scan it all. They had me take all my stuff out, and they wanted everything. So I'm sure Tucker did get VIP treatment, but and his experience probably was less intense than mine, and I'm sure people had it worse. And so I told Destiny, like, I'm like, I think my, like, I'm concerned, like, is there some kind of terrorist with my name or something? And she's just like, no, they do that kind of stuff sometimes. And someone in the comments told me that sometimes they really give someone a hard time because they want to watch someone else in the line. I'm like, well, that's interesting, but yeah, I don't know why I had to be singled out. So and if anyone's like, it's because you're black, there are other black people in the group. Black people in the group. Brother Chi has Nigerian parents and is darker than me. and Destiny is about my shade, I guess. So it's that's not the reason, if anyone's asking or thinking that. So it's just it's your way. So Tucker, it's not as bad as the Jussie Smollett situation. However, Tucker absolutely should know better. But before you ran some kind of story like that, wouldn't you kind of research to kind of know if it were normal? Because it's such a dumb thing. But I think Tucker's to the point where he does not care about the truth at all, and if he will get caught in a lie, because there's so many lies coming, it doesn't really matter. He doesn't answer to people like me and you and so on. But what's really interesting, and I do have to go. I really do have to go, but it is the pushback that people had and still wanted to be like, well, Israel killed a bunch of kids. I'm like, what does that got to do? Which, sometimes in urban warfare, you do see casualties, unintended casualties. That is the truth. But what does that have to do with Tucker being a drama queen about the airport? Like, why can't you just admit that what he said was silly and then I'm right? I'm objectively right about this. Why why come in my comments and talk about how you hate the Jews? Why do you have to do that? So anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I do have to go. Please go black2news.com, check a different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the site because this costs a stream, run my site, all the stuff you guys can support. I very much appreciate you guys. And I will not be streaming tomorrow. I'm actually like going out of town a bit. So I will see you guys on Monday, hopefully, maybe with some interesting stories. I don't know. So it's a neat little thing that's going on. It's not like super hyper important or whatever. I'm not going to the White House or whatever. I did get invited to the Black History thing. I just couldn't make it work this year, but maybe next time. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you next week.